Okay, awesome. So I want to thank you guys for showing up this morning on our Saturday, and happy first day of spring. It's actually kind of cool we're doing this like around that time, because that's a great time for things to be shifting. So you both know me a little bit. I am a wellness consultant and a wellness educator. I specialize in holistic lifestyle and mindset coaching. I have a background with essential oils. I have a background in holistic nutrition, and I'm just super passionate about helping people to find more health, wealth, and joy in their lives. And all the things that I have dived into through my life that I help people with now are all things that I have journeyed with myself. So that goes as well for this conversation around limiting beliefs. And in my work and in my life, more and more and more, this is becoming a theme, or you might have heard people talk about mindset. And I'll get into why it is that this is becoming such a prominent theme. But maybe before we get into this conversation, you can just sort of ask yourself the question of like why you're here this morning, because I believe we all are attracted to the things that we bring into our life for a reason. And just kind of have that in the back of your mind, because we're all here for something, right? So we are going to dive in. The perspective that I want to share with you today is that limiting beliefs are not a deficiency. And this is something that I have discovered we kind of come at this conversation with. Something is wrong, I need to fix it. And ultimately, we can't be in that space if we're trying to move forward with something. So allow me to get going. So the first part of this conversation is going to be around our mind. Okay, so our mind is made up of two parts, the conscious and the subconscious. So the conscious mind includes our willpower, our logical thinking, our analysis, our decision-making, where the subconscious includes things like our beliefs, our habits, emotions, values, imagination, and intuition. And so what we're thinking about the conscious is that this is what we use day in and day out. This is what we use to think, we analyze things, we decide things, and it is the thoughts that we are aware of and that we know that we're having day to day, okay? Where the subconscious is extremely powerful, okay? About 90% of our thoughts happen in this space, and it stores information for us. And I really love the analogy, like you can see on the screen, of the iceberg, okay? We only see a tiny little portion of that iceberg sitting at the surface of the water, but the part that is underneath is often massive and it's unseen. So it's like if we were in a boat floating on the water, we may not even know that there's this enormous piece of iceberg underneath the surface. So it's there, we don't necessarily know it's there. I also sometimes use the analogy of a computer, like an old school computer for this concept, where you would have the screen up top and then the hard drive with like the floppy disk or the CD or whatever would go underneath. And we only see what pops up on the screen. So that's the conscious mind, whereas everything is really happening in that hard drive, in that operating system. There's no way we know all the stuff that's going on in there, okay? So when we talk about limiting beliefs, these are beliefs that live in this subconscious part of the mind. We don't know that they're there. Sometimes we do, but they're harder to access because they're sort of buried down. Okay, so these are really stories that we tell ourselves. They're beliefs that we have created throughout our life, and it's things that we tell ourselves about the way the world works, or how we work, or what we're capable of. And these beliefs again live in our subconscious, so we aren't aware of them, and yet they are the thoughts that are running the show. They impact how we decide and how we act every single day. So often, if a limiting belief is coming to light, it might be something that our conscious mind knows is not the truth about us, but the belief in the subconscious still exists and it impacts everything we do. That is hardwired into our brain. It's like if you go to try to tie your shoes with your, like, it's just a habit, right? We start as a kid, we're not really very confident or capable of tying our shoes. We get better and better and better at it. That's like a program. We don't even have to think about that now, right? That's in our subconscious. We just do it. It's like driving a car. You don't have to think about the steps. Okay, but these beliefs that we have are programmed like that as well. So they pop up and we don't even know. We just do the things we do and the belief is running in the background. Okay, these beliefs develop throughout our life, and a lot of them take root when we're children, because that is when we're forming our ideas and our beliefs about the world around us. And a lot of people I talk to think that these limiting beliefs, because they have this sort of negative feeling around them, that they come from something really traumatic or something really awful that happened to us. And sometimes they do, but quite often, these are just things that we pick up, stuff that we heard, maybe something that we saw. We heard a conversation between our parents. And these things lead us to create a belief that this is the way things are in the world and this is the way things are with me. We essentially take a snapshot of that moment, we create a memory, and then we file it away in our brain for later. So as we go through our life and as we experience things, we bump up against stuff, we may encounter challenges or uncomfort, and our brain goes back through these files and finds the memory. And it kind of says, well, hey, oh, remember when this sort of happened? You felt this way. That wasn't really great. I didn't like that, so I'm not going there. And without us even knowing it, our subconscious sabotages our effort to sort of push through that, and we go in the opposite direction. Okay. Sometimes these beliefs can also be passed down from our parents or even from several generations back. So if you're into like exploring, inner child work or like ancestral stuff, we can get into some of these things in there too. Ancestors that we never even met. So I often have come up against the analogy of like maybe a grandfather or a great grandfather having the belief that, work is really hard. We have to work really hard for what we have, or women should be in the home. Women should not go back to work. They should be with the children, family first, stuff like that. And so even that kind of stuff can carry forward for us. And as we try to make shifts in our life, we bump up against these things that we believe to be true when they're not actually the truth. So without even knowing it, we make decisions. We take action or non-action every day because of the beliefs that are wired into our subconscious mind. In essence, our beliefs are actually decisions. We decided at some point that this was the truth about the world or about us, and this is what drives us every day. We've decided that this is the thing, okay? So anytime that we're looking to create change in our life, and it doesn't matter what it is, we have to acknowledge that in order to progress into something different, into a different reality, we need to change our beliefs, because our beliefs are decisions, and what we decide is how we act. So we essentially have to change our minds, okay? So how do you know if you have limiting beliefs? Everyone has limiting beliefs. Everyone. Would not be normal to not have some kind of limiting belief somewhere inside of you. And that's because they're a part of our human existence, right? They're our subconscious's way of keeping us safe. We experienced something uncomfortable at some point. Our subconscious said, don't really like that. That doesn't feel good. And so we're not going to go there again, right? It's trying to protect us. This process of learning, right? Recognizing experiences that are possibly threatening and then saving that information for later on. That's programmed into our DNA, okay? That's the way we work as human beings. What happens though is that we can't determine, or our mind can't decide if something is a real threat or if it's just something that is kind of in that uncomfortable. Maybe it's a hassle, or we perceive something threatening about it. the reaction in the mind and in the body is the same. So we get into that same space of kind of bumping up against stuff. We get stuck. We get into the fear because it's uncomfortable, and we're programmed to stay safe. Okay. What I have found in my 20 years as a youth sport coach, 11 years in the wellness industry, working with mindset, working with nutrition, for all this time is that we see these things, these beliefs that we hold, that they're a deficiency. There's something wrong with us. There's a problem that we have to fix in order to move forward. And we associate the fact that we have these limiting beliefs as something that is bad. Okay, I've had this experience personally also. One of my most loved business mentors years ago told me, Diane, you know, I think you have some limiting beliefs around money. And although I know her intentions were heartfelt, I know she was trying to help me move forward, that was perceived by me as a threat and a deficiency. And so did I move forward? No, I was stuck. I'm like, well, that's wrong. That means something's wrong with me. I've got to fix that. It doesn't feel good. So I didn't do anything. I knew she was right. I knew there was something there, but because I was in this place of lack and deficiency, I couldn't progress with it. So one thing that I have learned, and that we could actually get onto an entirely new conversation about, and if you happen to be, if you've seen my post about this program, the Wealth Passage that I'm offering, and it actually starts next week, we're going to dive more into this, but is the conversation around energy. Okay, our thoughts, everything is energy, but so are our thoughts and our feelings. So when we have thoughts that focus on lack, feeling less than, feeling deficient, feeling frustrated or sad, we are living in a low energy frequency. Okay, and in the world of energy, like attracts like. So from this space of low energy, we are unable to attract more of anything that exists in a higher frequency. And those things are the things that we're looking for: the money, the wealth, the financial freedom, the happiness, the health, the joy, the gratitude. All those things are high vibing. We can't access them when we're stuck in a place of feeling less than. Okay. So this is what is happening when we approach our limiting beliefs from a place of, there's something that is wrong with me. There's something that I need to fix. We get to that point of acknowledging we have them. We know there's something there, but we spin into shame and lack and frustration, and we start digging really hard. And it's from a place of just wanting something different. But when we're wanting something, we're in a place of lack. So we judge it. There's resentment that it's there, resentment for ourselves that we can't fix it, and none of this will work. This is the wrong energy, okay? This is the lack, the deficiency mentality, and it keeps us stuck. So what we need to do instead is we need to approach this with curiosity. We need to get curious. And I love this picture of this little kid with the magnifying glass, right? If you think about a child trying to figure out something new or learn something, they're just curious, they're inquisitive, they investigate, like they're just trying to understand, right? Without really any care or concern for the outcome. They just want to know. There's no good or bad attached to it. It's just the thing. And they're just trying to understand it. And this is what we have to bring in when we start to look at uncovering these limiting beliefs that we have. With curiosity, I love this phrase, with curiosity comes compassion. When we're curious, there's no good or bad, there's no resentment. So we come in with a full heart, with gratitude for the experience itself, right? This is that high frequency. Peace, love, joy, gratitude. This is where we're trying to get. We actually need to create it now in order to move forward. And curiosity does that. So as we dive into curiosity and we come at this stuff with compassion, we are actually able to then just even attract more peace, love, joy, and gratitude that we want to be experiencing in our life. We get to create it in that moment with this attitude of curiosity. And this is where we have to be in order to work with our limiting beliefs. We want to uncover them so we can see them. We get to hold them, we get to love on them, we get to say thank you, we can be grateful for them, and then we have the actual energy frequency and the ability to change them. And when we change the belief, we change our decisions, we change our life, because we take different action from those different beliefs. So how do we uncover them? And I laugh at myself sometimes because I'm really not always a process person. Things sort of are a little bit more organic and flowy with me most of the time, but this has worked for me. And I like that it sort of takes this big thing that we have to do. We're like, okay, so I know this stuff is there. Now what do I do with it? How do I even dive in? It sort of simplifies the steps. So, also, when I'm working with clients now, this is what we go through. And one of the things that I suggest, and if you're here, this is probably something that you're working on in your life or you're curious about, is that you find someone that you can work with and talk to throughout this process, because we can't always see the beliefs that are running the show for us. It's like, I love this analogy I heard from another practitioner, and she said, it's like trying to read the ingredients from the inside of the jar. We are in the jar, and we can't always see, no matter how hard we try, the ingredients on the outside that we're trying to figure out. So having someone that you can go to that you trust, that will hold that space for you and maybe ask you some questions to get you thinking in a different way about these things, is a really beautiful part of this process, okay? So as you're working through this, and we're all different, which is one of the awesome things about this. This three-step approach typically works for most people. And it can help us acknowledge, see, and then change the beliefs. Okay, and I find that it's always easiest to start with what we know. So I start with the conscious thoughts, okay, the 10% that are up in the brain that we know, that we can see, and that we use every day to analyze and decide and that kind of thing. So this is step one. And these are the thoughts that we have about the world around us. We often speak these things. So if you're paying attention to what you say about what you see going on around you, or about something that you are doing or not doing, notice what you are verbalizing about it. So I heard somebody say the other day, she's married to her work. So in my brain, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, well, there's a belief there with that, right? And it isn't necessarily a belief that comes with a lot of positivity, at least that's what I took from it. So, for that person, that might be something that's holding them back, because there's a negative connotation with being attached to her job, right? So that she would bump up against that as she was trying to build her business, or, get a raise, or whatever that might look like for her. These are also the thoughts that we think, like when we look in the mirror, while we're kind of having self-dialogue, if we're making dinner, unloading the dishwasher. This is when they are our thoughts. So what we need to do is we need to just become more aware of them every day, okay? This is where things like just becoming more like a mindfulness practice. Sorry, I'm getting my words jumbled. A mindfulness practice is really nice, because it allows us to slow down not long enough to actually see, to be aware, to notice what it is that we're thinking. The awareness part of this is key. So it's like, how do we build that? Well, mindfulness is great. Meditation is great. Even just writing stuff down, even just plugging into your mind, having an intention around noticing what it is that you say to yourself in the mirror, that you say to your husband, that you say to your friends, right? We just build this awareness muscle and we start to notice things. When this awareness has increased and we are noticing our thoughts, then this is where we start to dig a bit deeper. And this is step number 2. So we may kind of just, we'll say something and you'll just be like, whoa, wait a minute. Where did that come from? That's interesting. Why do I think that? Huh. And this is the curiosity part. Where did that come from? You know, if you were thinking about the lady I was talking about that I heard say that, well, she's married to her work, right? If I verbalize that, then I might be in a space where I could finally say, wait a minute, like, what does that mean? What do I think about that? Is that really the case? Is that a bad thing? Where does that belief come from? And then we just gently start digging with this stuff. And this is where we get the curiosity, right? We're asking questions so that we can know more, but there's no judgment about it. It's just where did that thought come from? Okay. And this, again, these practices of meditation and journaling, can't stress journaling enough, become so helpful because so when we meditate, we slow down the mind. Most of the time it doesn't stop for us unless we're quite proficient in meditation practice. But we give ourselves space in the conscious mind to allow the subconscious thoughts to come forward. And then that's when we can see them, right? Otherwise they just stay buried. So then we can look at them. And after that, I encourage writing them down because there is another transfer that happens when we take something from inside of our mind and we get it out, like physically out, either on paper or a voice recorder, or you type it out so that you can actually see it in front of you with your eyes. Okay. Then we get to be a little bit more curious about it. We get to continue digging that process and we can start this evolution of noticing, loving it, giving it space, deciding if it is actually the truth. Okay. The fact that I was holding a belief, maybe that was negative, is that tied to anything that I'm trying to do in my life? Am I encountering that belief again? Is it holding me back somewhere? Is it true? Okay, it's usually not true. Maybe I uncover that comment or that memory from a grandfather that said that women should stay at home and not work. You know, stuff like that starts to pop up, and that's where we start to uncover these beliefs. A lot of people that I talk to, I'm sort of like I will gently sort of nudge, right? When I'm working with clients, people will ask lots of questions and sort of try to get them to see that perhaps they have a limiting belief somewhere. But it's always very interesting to me that a lot of people, we don't, either we aren't ready to look at them or we don't understand what they are. I was chatting with a lady the other day and I suggested, again, this kind of gentle nudging that perhaps there's something there that you could look at. And it was, well, you know what the reality is that I've got 3 kids. I have no time. My husband works away from home. I'm super busy. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I don't sleep well. So because that is so prominent in our experience, that's where we sort of settle. Okay. But what we need to understand is that the reason we are experiencing those things is because we have a belief about us or the way the world works that allows all of that to happen. So once we get to the point where we're ready to look at those things, even that we're saying there's not enough time. Well, what do you believe about time? Okay, then we can start to uncover the things. And when we do this, we literally change our brain. Okay, we create, as we practice this, as we look at these things, and then we tell the truth. So maybe time isn't actually as limited as I think it is. As we start to rewire those, as we insert new beliefs, we create new neural pathways, and it literally changes the way that our brain works. Okay, and these new pathways reinforce new beliefs. It continues to cycle, and we do different things because that neural pathway is different. The brain is different, right? Our thoughts then move us in new directions because the belief is different. So the last step then in this process of getting into the beliefs and changing them is actually all about energy. And I spoke about this just a little bit. But again, anything and everything is energy. Our thoughts and our feelings are energy. So the things that we desire in our life, the things that we want, more freedom, more love, a deeper relationship with our spouse, more time, more joy, more money, they are all the same energy, and they are all at that high frequency. So in order to bring more of that in, we have to bring our energy up to meet it. It will never come down to us. Okay? So this last step, this third part, comes with daily practices of elevating our energy level so that the things that we desire in our life, that we are looking for, can finally meet us where we are. Okay? So one of the most amazing tools for this is to start seeing yourself living the life you want in the way that you want, having the things that you want, the money, the love, whatever it is. See it happening now. You need to visualize the specifics of living that life, and you need to get into the feelings of what it would be like when you're there. There was a study done a while back on a group of pianists, and they had them all hooked up with brain monitors and things, and they were tracking brain activity. So what they discovered was that while the pianists were practicing, and while they were just visualizing the things, the same parts of the brains were firing. So it didn't matter if they were actually playing the piano or if they were just sitting with their eyes closed, visualizing playing the piano, the brain activity was the same. So it shows us that we don't have to have the thing now. We don't have to be there now, but we have to see ourselves there now. And this we can do every single day, visualizing what we want and that we're living it right now. This bumps your energy level up in a whole new way. Okay, and as you do that, and you focus on the feelings of those things, right? How's it gonna feel when you're driving in your new car? How's it gonna feel when you go on that holiday with your kids? Can you visualize the smell of the ocean and sand in your toes, right? How's it gonna feel when you get that bump in pay that you've been wanting? And what is that gonna allow you to feel more of in your life? It's all about the feelings, okay? These feelings are pure energy, and we have to live in them right now. And as you do this a little bit every day, your energy levels rise so that you can bring this stuff in. And then you're also in a place where you're not feeling deficient. You're not feeling less than, because you feel that you have it all now, right? So we wipe out all of the fear and the doubt and the deficiency, and I have to fix something, and we just live in a space of high energy, peace, love, joy, gratitude right now. Okay, that's a really important piece. So anyone who is looking for something different in their life is virtually at a crossroads, okay, with their limiting beliefs. Anyone who's feeling resistance in their life is bumping up against a limiting belief. They want more balance. They want to feel more vitality. They want something different with their work life. They want a deeper relationship with their spouse, more freedom, more time, more money. We basically have two options, okay? We can continue wanting more. Remember, when we want something, it's because we lack something. We can't stay in that lack place if we want anything to change. We might be hoping for that break, right, that we've been looking for. In the meantime, we continue doing the same thing we've been doing. We're going to be waiting for a really long time. Okay, we wait and we wait and we wait. Waiting is the antithesis of progress and change. Nothing happens when we wait. We just stay stuck. Or option two, we start working on our beliefs. We do this so that our actions change. And ultimately, this is what changes and brings in the things that we want in our life, because we do things differently. Okay, if we're doing the same thing all the time, we're always going to get the same result. When the beliefs change, we take different action. So I know this can all seem like a lot, and it is a process. And it's not a process that has a defined beginning and end. This is ongoing. And it does require like the effort and the dedication to devote this time and curiosity and love to yourself in order to work through these things that are blocking your desires. And if you have an icky feeling, I describe it as icky. It's not the most like professional word, but it is. It's an icky feeling. You feel it in your gut or you feel it in your heart. Your brain is in like logic mode saying, this can't work. We can't do this. This doesn't make sense. This is the crossroads presenting itself to you. You are bumping up against the belief. In order to move forward, you have to go forward through the belief. Okay? For me, that icky feeling that I had to lean into happened actually not long before we moved, which is very interesting that all of the things that I wanted in my new home came to fruition after I started doing this work. I had been introduced to a lady who was a coach. I'd had some questions about abundance and she had responded. So we had a couple of chats, just pro bono. It was great. She started to help me see things differently. And I started to feel this like need, this like desire to work with her more. I loved her energy. Like it was a good feeling. You know, when you have that feeling, you just connect with someone, right? So the things she was saying were just resonating with me. I was looking at things differently. I knew in my heart I needed it. The cost of her program was more than any other training or program that I had ever invested in for myself. So I had major logical brain discussion about it's too much. You can't afford it. How are you going to do this? You guys can't figure this out. Yada, yada, yada. This was the icky feeling. It's like a conflict between the heart and the brain. But I knew I needed it. And so I jumped. I said yes. I didn't know how we were going to figure it out, but I did it. Because I knew at that point that if I chose to pull away like I had in the past and prioritize all the other things that I had always prioritized before myself, that nothing was going to change. So I was also in a place where I just knew that I wanted more. There was something else. I was hitting that resistance and I'm like, no, the thing that I want has got to be on the other side of that. So I did it. I leaned into that icky feeling. And what we need to recognize as we sort of come to this place of knowing that, okay, these things aren't something that's wrong with me. I also changed my perspective of like the icky feeling is actually something I look for now because I know that that is where I can grow. That is where change is. When we feel this resistance and this heartfelt longing and the logic starts to take over, that's when we need to move. We need to lean into that fear. We need to lean into those beliefs that are sitting right there under the surface. These are the beliefs that are ready to be seen. When we do this, you guys, this is like just opening a door. We just have to say yes. We turn that key and we just start to walk through, and everything that we are looking for is on the other side. We have to open it. We have to go through all the ickiness in order to get to that place of living in our desire and getting into the things that we want. Okay, so when I bump up now in that resistance, when it feels icky, I actually come back to like, okay, this is the stuff I want to look at it. I'm grateful for that feeling because I know that's where my next shift is going to be. So I'm going to share a little activity that you can do if this is resonating, and I'll share my little story with you. So this actually happened to me again on Thursday as I was in a conference and trying to prepare for this talk and for the program I'm running next week. This all bubbled up. And I share this because it really speaks to my belief that this work is never done for us. It gets easier. And we go through periods where we're going to be like riding super high in the energy and the beliefs that we've busted through, but stuff is going to bubble up for us. It just, because we experience things, we encounter things, and they pull more stuff forward. So this is what happened to me on Thursday. So all day Thursday, I was feeling the ick. Okay. I was quite sticky, actually, like stuff just wasn't feeling right. And I knew I shouldn't be focusing in that deficient negative mindset, but I just couldn't seem to get past it. So that night I did what's called a receiving journal, which is something that you could try, and it has been mind-blowing for me. We often, I know a lot of us have like a gratitude practice, which I love, but I was never able to dive into the feeling of the gratitude. I'd write down the list and then I'd go on to the next thing in my busy day. But when we write down a receiving journal, you do it in the evening and you actually look back on all of the things that you have received that day. So I did that, and that started to help shift my focus a little bit. I saw that I'd had an opportunity to learn at this online conference that I was at. I was with all my teammates and they were, always pumping each other up. I had a really nice dinner with my family. We were playing outside. It was beautiful weather. I received a $75 deposit in my account that I hadn't expected, right? Just all the things that were coming into my life. I did that and that helped. Friday morning, I got up and I sat and I did my meditation. And like I said before, my meditation practice has really become a way for me to allow stuff to come up. And I knew there was something there that needed to come up. So I meditated and oh my gosh, so much came up all around failure and fear, way more than I had expected. I had actually, and I'll share this with you, it took me back to my childhood. I was always overweight as a kid, and was always confusing to me because I ate healthy. I was very active. I was like an athletic kid, but I was always a little bit overweight. And all of a sudden this thought came up in my mind that I was like, I'm a failure because I was overweight. My dad was an Olympian and he has an overweight daughter and he must be so ashamed of me. Floodgates, right? I love my dad. We've always had a great relationship. He has never done anything or said anything to me that would make me logically feel that way. But that was something that I perceived for whatever reason. And boom, that came up. So waterworks ensued. And then as that came up, a bunch of other stuff came up about, I was hit with a chronic disease when I was 21. I'm a failure because I was sick. I'm a failure because I couldn't finish my teaching career. It all came barfing forward. So it was to a point where I was like, well, this is too much right now. I don't know how to get through this. So this is what I did. I don't know if you can see this. I took a page in my journal and I wrote down on one side of the page, I wrote my voice and my internal thought. So these were all the things that were coming up. And then I divided the page in half. And on the other side, I wrote reprogrammed thought or truth. And so I gave myself time and space to just write all of the thoughts that were coming. My dad was ashamed of me because I was overweight. I failed as a teacher. I'm scared to be a leader. I'm blah, 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 all the things. And then I read through them. And on the other side of the page, the reprogrammed thought, I rewrote each of those beliefs. So where I was talking to myself about, being a failure because I was sick, I'm healed. I healed my body. I'm not a failure. I'm a success. The one that came through as I went through all this stuff was, and again, I will show you this because it says, I am wildly successful and living the life of my dreams. So as I was working through all of these things, a lot of them came up around, I actually am successful. I'm not a failure. I am successful. So the thing with when you're reprogramming these thoughts is that we attract what we think of. So you want to make sure that your reprogrammed thought is attracting the thing you want. So I wouldn't reprogram them and say, I'm not a failure, because we focus on the failure and that's what we bring. We focus on, I am a success. I am healed. I am a leader. I am blah, 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 blah. Okay. And even if you don't feel it now, like we talked about before, you visualize it like you're living in it now. And that is what you write down. Okay. This changed my day, this activity. I went back to my online conference with a whole new perspective of what I was learning and how I could move it forward. I was in a way better mood. Everything was lighter. I know that I am working through those beliefs. Okay. So that's a little activity that you can try. And I really encourage you to think about the process of free writing when you get into these things. Don't hold anything back. Just let the gates open and write it all down, even if it doesn't make any sense to you. And you might encounter a time where you're not even sure what to write. Just write that. I don't know what to write about this. This seems like a dumb exercise. Blah, blah, blah. Like, just let it pour and you will be amazed at the stuff that comes out of you. Okay. Just checking my notes. So basically then from that exercise too, what you end up with, you'll find probably a theme like I did. I'm wildly successful. And that has become my mantra right now. So I try to focus on one mantra at a time. I put that in my like quantum highway of my priority focus for my own growth and the things that I am building in my life. The things that I truly, truly desire in my heart, not my brain. Okay. And I work with that mantra, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, so that you're reprogramming that old belief. Okay. We are reprogramming. We literally, you guys, are reprogramming our brain to think in new ways and create. It creates new neural pathways. This is what neuroscience shows us. Again, coming back to like tying your shoes, right? You didn't automatically know how to do that. You had to learn it. And it's the exact same thing now for us as adults with our thoughts. We have to relearn, reprogram the beliefs that are in our subconscious. And we can do this with anything, okay? We can, if our belief is around, maybe it's around our ability to live in greater health, we can reprogram that. Maybe it's around having our dream job. Maybe it's something that's limiting us, our ability to get out of debt or have greater financial freedom. The energy of these thoughts is all the same. It's the same process to reprogram them. And what is so interesting is that these beliefs, if say we're working on nutrition, we have a belief about something that we're bumping up against in terms of how we feed and nourish ourselves. That belief is showing up in your relationships, in your job, in your in how you operate as a parent. It's not just happening in one space. So what is so amazing about this work is that the ripple of changing these beliefs will not just impact the thing that you think you want. You will notice it in all parts of your life. Okay, doing this work, if you ask me if I was happily married, yeah, for sure. But my relationship right now with my husband is better than it has ever been because of this work. We moved. We finally got the home that we wanted after a really long time. Business looks different. Parenting looks different. The way I nourish myself is different. It's amazing. It's the coolest experience. So I'm going to bring this to an end here. I want to make sure that I respect your time, but I think one thing I've discovered is that I'm actually going to have to change the name of limiting beliefs, because I don't believe that focusing on them as a limit is going to move us forward. We have to come back to that space of it's an opportunity. The ick that we feel around them is the gateway. We have to go through that. And if we can focus in the positive things that we are doing for our life, the opportunity that it presents to work with these beliefs, then they're not actually a limit for us. They're an opportunity. They are the passage to the next thing in our life that we're looking for. So, with this attitude at the front of what we're doing, the opportunities for us are limitless. The growth possibilities are limitless. Okay? We think of these limiting beliefs as gifts. When we bump up against the resistance, we remember that we're facing this belief, that it is there for us to learn. We have the ability to see it, move with it, change it. And when we do that, we change our life. Okay. So that, my friends, is the message that I really wanted to share with you today. And I thank you very much for coming on this morning. If this has been interesting, if you have any questions that come up about this later, or maybe you do a journaling exercise, or you're thinking about abundance and gratitude, or the receiving journal, and you need a little bit of insight or support, just shoot me a message. I love chatting about this stuff. Also, I will just mention that one of the greatest gateways that I have experienced in terms of these beliefs has been around financial wellness. And for so long in my wellness consulting career, this was never something that I looked at or helped people with because I was blocked. I didn't want to look at it either. I was afraid to go to the bank. I didn't want to look at my debt. I did not like to feel the stress around money. So I am running a program that starts next week. It's called The Wealth Passage, and it is all around specifically uncovering and reprogramming our limiting beliefs around money. Because when we do that, we change our actions with money, and that is what changes our financial reality. So it is a 2-week program. I think I need to move my little thingy here. We'll go over there. The 2-week program. Mindset shifts around money can happen really fast. So that's why it's only 2 weeks long. There are 6 calls every day. You get, in the training calls, you get information, exercises, insights, training for me, and then there's daily exercises, activities, journalings, prompts, visualizations, etc. in between. This program changes how you feel about money. It helps you to drop the stress around money. It helps you to confront or see what you believe to be true about money. And again, after talking about these are beliefs, right? We believe things about money and finances too. This is what creates change. So I actually wrote a blog post a couple weeks back that I, again, stepping through the gateway of feeling uncomfortable, I actually wrote it to financial advisors saying, you know what, you need to be helping your clients believe things differently about money because nobody likes to talk about money because it's stressful. If we can peel back the stress and the fear, we can have a much greater relationship with money. And then we do different things. We manage money differently when we feel good about it. And that comes back to beliefs. So anyway, I wanted to mention that because it links with everything that we talked about today. Again, if that is of interest, shoot me a message. I can send you the link to my website if you want to check it out. It starts on Tuesday. And I'm super excited about it. And actually, 2 of the people in the program are financial advisors, which also blew my mind. So there's another example of, right, the resistance that we feel. Things progress pretty quickly when we move through that. So I will stop sharing my screen. There we go. And there's a chat that I didn't see yet. Oh, thanks, Jill. I can't see the chat and the screen and the faces and everything when I'm talking. So, ladies, thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate your time and being open to listening. And if I can ever offer any support, I love the conversations about this stuff. It fires me up. So, message away. And I hope you have an awesome first day of spring. Yay!
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. We'll see you later.
You bet.